In other news, South Africa and the United States of America are locked in a diplomatic row. That's over a controversial Land Expropriation Act. Washington believes that South African government will grab white-owned farms for free, and this despite several explanations from Pretoria. Washington still went ahead and signed an executive order halting all funds to South Africa. However, South Africans don't seem deterred, and many are convinced that this is the doing of billionaire Elon Musk, who is a close ally of Donald Trump. Our next report telling you more.
The last few weeks, South Africa has been dominating global headlines. US President Donald Trump hasn't been very kind towards Pretoria, and neither has his South African-born tycoon ally Elon Musk. First, it was just a threat. Then came the signing of an executive order and an unexpected announcement that the US would prioritize white South Africans in a refugee program. Most ordinary South Africans rejected Trump's resettlement plan.
To me, I think it's either an illusion or a fantasy on Trump to obviously gain more momentum.
Personally, I feel like Trump doesn't know anything about this. I feel like Elon Musk is pushing him behind to say there's something there, go look at it. Because why all of a sudden interest in SA after all these years?
Land ownership remains a contentious issue in South Africa, with most farmland still owned by white people 3 decades after the end of apartheid. Last month, President Ramaphosa signed a new law that allows the government to decide on expropriations without compensation, but only in certain exceptional circumstances where it would be just and equitable. This has triggered Washington, and it offered to take in white South Africans as refugees.
They are part of South Africa. They're part of our history, and we welcome them as fellow South Africans. There's nothing peculiar about it or weird about it. It's just they're part of us.
So I feel like if all Afrikaners leave SA and go to States, this country will be messed up. That's one thing I know for sure, because I feel like we do need those Afrikaners. As much as we don't get along, but I feel like for this country, we actually do need them.
The South African government has expressed its concern over what they call a campaign of misinformation and propaganda aimed at misrepresenting the great nation. Last week, Ramaphosa, during the State of the Nation address, said his country would not be intimidated and bullied.
Washington and Pretoria diplomatic row has brought South Africans together, while South African Chamber of Commerce in the US have said they have gotten thousands of inquiries from individuals looking to leave South Africa and seek resettlement in the United States. Most, including Afrikaner lobby groups, have said they are going nowhere. South African government has said they will not get intimidated and bullied, but they will continue to engage to their US counterparts. This is Kalden Omar from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.
We now shift our attention to West Asia. The fragile ceasefire in Gaza now stands on the brink of a collapse. Tensions have further escalated after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued an ultimatum to Hamas that if hostages are not released by this Saturday, Israel will abandon the ceasefire and resume military operations, echoing similar statements made by US President Donald Trump. Just a day earlier, following a 4-hour cabinet meeting, the Israeli Prime Minister emphasized that his government supports the Trump's vision for Gaza's future. Take a listen.
In light of Hamas's announcement of its decision to violate the agreement and not release our hostages, last night I ordered the military to gather forces inside and around the Gaza Strip. The decision that I passed unanimously in the cabinet is this: if Hamas does not return our hostages by Saturday noon, the ceasefire will end and the military will return to intense fighting until Hamas is finally defeated.
Bibi's orders are now in motion. According to reports, the IDF has raised its readiness level in the Southern Command, reinforcing its forces with additional troops and reservists. That is, if hostilities resume, it seems prepared to strike. Trump had earlier proposed Israel to cancel the ceasefire altogether and let hell break out unless all of the hostages were returned by Saturday. Well, according to reports, Hamas insists it is committed to the ceasefire deal, and the group is pushing mediators, including Qatar and Egypt, to intervene and address its issues. Meanwhile, Arab nations are reportedly pressuring Hamas to get the deal back on track, trying to prevent a full-scale return to war. In fact, during a meeting with Trump at the Oval Office, Jordan's King Abdullah made it clear that the Arab states are working towards a more acceptable solution for Gaza's future, emphasizing the need for a regional approach.
We have to keep in mind that there is a plan from Egypt and the Arab countries. We're being invited by Mohammed bin Salman to discussions in Riyadh. I think the point is how do we make this work in a way that is good for everybody. I think the Egyptians to present their plan on how we can work with the president to work on Gaza challenges.
At the same meeting, this is what Trump had to say on Gaza's future plan.
Saturday deadline, and I don't think they're going to make the deadline personally. I think they want to play tough guy, but we'll see how tough they are. But it's going to be a wonderful thing. It's going to be wonderful for the Middle East. I think it'll turn the Middle East. I think you're going to have peace in the Middle East. You're going to eventually have peace in the Middle East.
While Hamas is unwilling to accept Trump's proposal, it is leaving the door open for diplomatic efforts to salvage the ceasefire. Senior Hamas official Bassem Naim stated that the group is ready to continue prisoner exchanges if mediators can ensure that Israel follows the agreement. The Hamas official, Naim, accused Israel of repeatedly violating the ceasefire by delaying the return of displaced Palestinians to northern Gaza and also obstructing the supply of urgently needed food, medical aid and shelter supplies. If all these issues can be resolved, Hamas says that it is willing to go forward with the planned hostage release this Saturday. Right now, the ceasefire remains in place, but barely. The real 6-week deal was supposed to see a total of 33 Israeli hostages exchanged for nearly 1,900 Palestinian prisoners and detainees. So far, only 16 hostages have been freed since the agreement took effect on January 19th. Along with 5 Thai nationals released outside the terms of the deal. But with Saturday's deadline fast approaching, the stakes have never been higher. Will Hamas meet Trump and Netanyahu's demands? Or will Israel and US carry out its threat to restart the war? And amid all of this, what role will the Arab states play in shaping what comes next? One thing is certain. The next 72 hours will determine whether Gaza remains under a fragile truce or plunges back into bloodshed. Shifting our focus back to India, a special investigation team led by the Central Bureau of Investigation has now uncovered serious lapses in the e-tendering procedure of the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanams, TTD, a temple body in India that oversees operations and finances of the richest and the most visited religious center. We're talking about Venkateshwara temple located in Tirumala in Andhra Pradesh. The temple's laddus, which are the devotional offerings, became involved in the center of a row last year amidst claims that they were adulterated with animal fat. It had created a countrywide uproar last September, following which a probe was ordered. The 5-member probe team included officers from the CBI, Andhra Pradesh government and Food Safety Standards Authority of India. And now, just 2 days ago, 4 people were arrested in connection with the adulteration of the ghee used in the preparation of the laddus. The probe team has now found severe lapses in the temple body's procurement procedure. The remand report confirms that the ghee contamination had taken place with all 3 dairy suppliers reportedly involved in the scandal. Investigations have now raised disturbing allegations, including claims that animal carcass residues were found in the ghee. IR Dairy, which had a contract with TTD, has reportedly been found guilty of multiple violations. To oversee the case closely, Joint Director Viresh Prabhu has been stationed in the temple town of Tirupati. Well, there are also reports claiming that the suppliers had fabricated documents Now understanding the source of the ingredients used in the laddu is also important because it is revered by the devotees throughout the country. You see, Tirupati laddus have what is called a geographical indication tag, which is a name or sign that identifies a good and the origin of it. The tag is a form of intellectual property right, IPR, that protects the good and ensures that only authorized users can use the name. Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanams, which manages the temple, uses 15,000 litres of ghee for the preparation of laddus. An estimated 3 lakh laddus are made every day at the Tirupati temple. The row over animal fat was triggered by an anti-corruption probe into disparities in the purchase of ghee, vegetables and other items used to make the laddus and the food at the temple. As a result, the laddu adulteration scandal had become a political flashpoint in Andhra Pradesh last year, with the ruling party TDP lashing out at the previous Jagan Mohan Reddy government for, and I'm quoting here, playing with the most pious of offerings in Tirupati. US President Donald Trump has signed a sweeping executive order empowering Elon Musk's Doge to orchestrate massive federal workforce reductions. With Elon Musk by his side, Trump defended the effort to shrink the federal agencies by identifying government employees who can be laid off and functions that can be eliminated entirely.
And we're going to be signing a very important deal today. It's Doge, and I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things that we found, which are shocking. Billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. And I think it's very important. And that's one of the reasons I got elected. I said we're going to do that. Nobody had any idea it was that bad, that sick, and that corrupt.
Doge has gained unprecedented authority to slash through federal agencies, flaunting power to identify and remove positions across the government's 2.3 million-strong civilian workforce. Trump and Musk claim their efficiency drive will uncover a staggering $1 trillion in savings, which marks 15% of total federal spending.
We have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix.
With millions of government jobs on the chopping block, worker unions have escalated demonstrations in the U.S. Capitol. Democrats have called Trump's move unacceptable.
Here today to send a message, a loud and clear message to our senators and our representatives here on Capitol Hill. And the message is this: save the civil service and save the country.
The attack on you, the attack on the civil service is unacceptable, unconscionable, un-American, and we are going to stand with you until each and every one of those unlawful executive orders are fully and completely reversed, buried in the ground, never to rise again.
You were called to serve the American people in an American government. And for anyone who's wondering, these jobs are not Republican jobs or Democratic jobs. They're American jobs. They're American jobs.
Critics argue the move undermines the stability of government firms and threatens key public services. Legal challenges are already mounting as Doge gains wider access to federal payment systems and starts dismantling the agencies. In response to this, Musk points to the country's budget deficit that topped $1.8 trillion in the last fiscal year and took aim at the high interest payments on public debt. However, now the Trump administration finds itself on a collision course with the U.S. courts, with federal judges questioning the legality of the White House's cost-cutting measures. Trump's sweeping plans have shuttered some federal agencies and sent staff home. All this has sparked legal battles across the country.